2018 was a time when no one envisioned that Kannada cinema is going to present us such a compelling story and big screen experience like KGF Chapter 1. Not only did the movie cause wave in its home state but became quite the phenomenon on a national scale. One became curious why XL Entertainment wanted to present the product in Hindi, and the rest is history just on the mammoth success that the franchise ultimately became. What happens, however, when one movie of a particular genre does garner a lot of success and love, one starts to believe that the template of the same film is the reason for it clicking with so many people, not realizing that it's not the beats of the film that resonated the most, but the conviction of a creator like Prashant Neel. Mimicking art might be flattery, but when one does it only to reap the benefits of what presumably works, it comes across as a poor imitation rather than an homage. This is what I feared the most as I saw the teaser of Kabzaa, where it not only presented a similar aesthetic to the KGF franchise, but it seemed to present similar themes with its characters and motivations. Kabzaa focuses on a time period between 1942 and 1986, shedding light on a freedom fighter who loses his life fighting for the country, leaving behind his wife and 2 children who have to fend for themselves thereafter. The journey of why Arkeshwara, played by Upendra, the younger of the 2 brothers, goes from becoming an Air Force officer to the most dreaded gangster known in India forms the basic premise of Kabzaa. The hurdles he faces on this journey, the reason why he feels compelled to be on this path of bloodshed, and his ultimate influence are the basic beats of the film. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch it in theaters or not. The good. Upendra and his turncoat. This is a man who is a legend regarding Kannada cinema, a man who has dedicated his life to cinema since the mid-90s. So there is genuine love for the man irrespective of the storylines along the journey being a hit and a miss. My favorite moment, and the reason why I mention it is because it is so few and far between, is the turncoat of Arkeshwara, who goes from a naive, law-abiding citizen to a man consumed by vengeance, absolutely distraught that the system that he had faith in could not care less about him. The moment he is confronted with this predicament, you can see the shift in demeanor in Upendra's performance, and this is by far the only memorable moment of the movie. A moment that genuinely engages you and partially emotionally connects you to the protagonist. I wish I could say the same for the entire film, that I kept on rooting for the man, or whether I felt this deep connection with his roots of what compelled him to be a dreaded gangster, but those would be absolute lies and me being in denial, because this is the only brief moment in the otherwise exhausting narrative that was genuinely crafted well. A curiosity of what's to come. Everybody knew that Kiccha Sudeep is present in the storyline only for a brief period of time, an extended cameo of sorts, and the only thing that does pique my interest is if the creators will be interested in exploring the dynamic between the cop and the most wanted man if a future installment is to appear. Just like the KGF Chapter 1 template, and I will expand upon this a little further in the end, the movie presents an array of characters that you couldn't care less about. So the case of a worthy antagonist for Upendra's journey does not even exist for you to be on the edge of your seat. A probable case of a battle of wits or sheer strength is absolutely absent. And I feel this can only be explored if the creators have in mind to have an Upendra Kiccha Sudeep face-off. Because we honestly got crumbs in this venture, and it wasn't even worth picking them up with the 5-second rule. The underwhelming aspects. Repetitive and patchy editing style and poor CGI. I was fearing looking at the teaser of the film that the movie is going to embark upon such an assault to the senses editing, presuming that it thinks that it looks cool, but my god, does the editing of this film take the shape of making the movie experience exhausting. You remember watching KGF Chapter 2 and talking about how we were split about the car chase sequence, on how incessantly it transitioned to a black screen every 2 seconds? Now imagine that sequence and its editing pattern and sprinkle it everywhere in the movie, and that is Kabzaa. The number of action set pieces and even regular scenes where simply dialogues are being delivered, one is subjected to this fast-paced and abrupt jump cuts to black screens that one loses their bearings of what exactly is happening in scenes. The action set pieces are poorly choreographed and are masked with the same editing where there is no cause and effect in the moments of combat, but only goons flying and bursting into furniture next to them. Nothing beats a Trojan horse set piece with all the checking and the hero with his pals goes undetected on bikes that will really make you scratch your head in disbelief. The patchy editing is not only restricted to this fast-paced blackout, but even exists after mass dialogues like, "If you want to kill me, I will end the game," that transitions to a pelvic thrusting item song out of nowhere. It really is a task to keep up with all that's happening in the film, and it's only indicative of not really having a plan of action on how they want to tell this story. For a pan-Indian film that is projected on such a scale, one expects opulent sets and exceptional frames. But every time there is a palatial house showcased on the big screen, it is a poorly rendered animated frame that definitely doesn't transport you where the story is set. The curious case of Ravi Basroor. I have immense respect for the products that Ravi Basroor has churned out in recent years, and if one equated an exhilarating background score to the commercial mass template, one thought of Ravi's name, but the product bordered on being just loud rather than engaging. There is not a single dialogue that is not assisted with the ear-shattering background score, and it is not nearly as inventive as his previous work. What's even scarier is that a lot of the sounds are similar to his previous work. The Kabzaa title track has the same sound and treatment like Salaam Rocky Bhai. The item song is forgettable at best, and the introduction song of Madhumati played by Shriya Saran is only memorable due to her grace in the video. This is probably Ravi Basroor's most forgettable work that I have seen. The rousing background score for each punchline now is taking the shape of muffling the dialogues, to the point where one wonders, are the creators even interested in us comprehending the story, or they just want to bombard us with as much stimulus so that we don't ever pay attention to the screenplay? I guess we will never know. Cringe dialogues and lack of emotional engagement. Just like is the case with many of the mass commercial films that will come out also in the future, the dialogues in the movie are meant to be zingers but barely pack the punch to rouse any form of hooting and cheering. Kiccha Sudeep is introduced with the dialogue, "एक बार उसने entry किया तो वो enter the dragon दिखा के रहेगा." He collects rowdies of the town and each one introduces themselves like a Kanti Shah character. There is an angry villain in the universe who is basically an executioner, and he takes the shape of a frothing animal who hams his way through most of the film, just making grunting noises while attempting to be demonic. If you didn't get the case of a villain being cruel, he has cruel tattooed just under his eye, just so that you don't forget that he is a villain. The worst of the lot being Upendra saying he is allergic to loud sounds. मुझे silence ज़्यादा सूट करता है और मुझे इसके लिए violent होना पड़ेगा, so goodbye. And I feel like after I said this dialogue, you should concede if you believe that this is not an attempt to create the KGF template. Animal analogies of sher, whale or kutta are rampant throughout the film, and one wondered how they were approved in the first place. I wished at least the romantic relationship will emotionally engage me in the film, but the lead pair barely share any chemistry with one another. Shriya's longing for Arkeshwara is barely felt as the case of star-crossed lovers, and the wife wanting him to leave the world of crime barely even make the stakes higher. The movie takes the shape of not becoming a cohesive screenplay, but just a fast-paced montage. The moment that everyone should emotionally connect with is a moment everyone can see from a mile away. Murli Sharma as the conservative patriarch hamming his way through also does not help the case. It would be crazy not to admit that Kabzaa thought if it follows the beats of what presumably works for a pan-Indian film, it will be a success. The array of villains, the cinematography and prevalence of greys and black, the rapid editing and the rousing background score are all indicative of thinking that this is KGF amplified 10 times. In hindsight, it's nothing short of simply being just a cheap version of the same. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Kabzaa. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.